Hey guys, welcome to Drakewarden. My name's Paul, and this will be a continuation of the Fizban's Treasury of Dragons series. This time we'll be taking a look at the Drakewarden. For if you found normal animal companions a little bit too uncool, and if you wanted to be able to breathe a little bit of fire. Now, this is a very interesting class that gives you an alternative means of having a companion, and overall I feel like they did a really great job of giving you alternative ways of interacting with that companion compared to the Beastmaster. But we'll take a look at that in more detail, so let's head over to the text itself. So, we have our Fizban's quote and some fluff, and we do get a nice d6 table telling us where, if you want to, randomly, where your Drakewarden powers and Drake came from. Now that includes a secret order of rangers who collect and guard draconic lore, taught you their ways. A dragon gave you a geode or gemstone to care for, and to your surprise the Drake hatched from that stone. Or an ancient draconic inscription on a standing stone empowered you when you read it aloud. There's quite a few different options here, and it's nice that they're giving you some variety. Although I think personally I would just go for the I found an egg and raised my baby kind of deal. Getting into the actual mechanics of it, you start off with Draconic Gift. This is a ribbon feature. You're going to get Thaumaturgy as a ranger cantrip, which is nice. I guess it can make you seem a little bit more intimidating as a Drakewarden. I don't particularly see why Thaumaturgy over a different cantrip. I think perhaps one of the elemental control cantrips would have made more sense here, but a cantrip's a cantrip. And of course you learn to speak, read and write Draconic. That's great, but again this is just a ribbon feature. The meat of the feature is your Drake companion. And no, your Drake does not have to look like this guy looking at Dragonborn's face here. I'm not really sure why they chose a Dragonborn that looks extremely like the Drake, but the art exists. So as an action, you can magically summon your Drake, and it appears within 30 feet of you in an occupied space. Drake is friendly to both you and your companions, and it obeys your commands. Now, this does appear that you need to vocally command your Drake, as there's nothing in here about a telepathic link, so bear that in mind. It will use your proficiency bonus in its stat block in several places, and when you summon the Drake, you choose the element that it is associated with. And it's nice that you have that flexibility. It avoids you choosing something like fire early on, and then ending up fighting a bunch of fiends that are then resistant to you. So that flexibility is really nice, and the Draconic Essence trait does tie into your own abilities in some ways as well. In combat, it shares your initiative count but takes its turn immediately after yours, and it'll only take the dodge action unless you use a bonus action to command it, unless you are incapacitated, in which case it can act on its own. This is the exact same formula we have seen with the Battlesmith's companion, and it's a really refined formula that I think is a lot more elegant than the original Player's Handbook Animal Companion. You're not eating your own attacks to command it. Although bear in mind that as this will be bonus action heavy, this is not the kind of ranger that will be moving around their hunter's mark frequently. In fact, this is one of the very few instances you might want to take the altered version of Favoured Foe. And even then it will still suck. So, coming on down, it will stay around until it's reduced to 0 or you summon it again, so it is a permanent summon. There is no time limit on it. You can summon it once per long rest for free, and then you have to expend a slot of first level or higher after that to summon it again. So there's no reason why you can't have your Drake around all the time, and that's really great. You're not going to run into some instances like with the turrets of the artillerist where you might end up caught in a surprise combat and not have your turret set up. So, taking a quick look at the Drake's stat block, the Armour class is actually where this shines with a 14 plus proficiency bonus. This is going to start out with an AC of 16 and scale quite nicely. This is going to be more of an AC tank rather than a hit point tank. Its hit points equal 5 plus 5 times your ranger level. and it has a number of d10 hit dice equal to your ranger level. So the amount of hit points isn't spectacular, but it can still take a fair hit, and of course it can be bolstered by spells as it is a creature. A 40-foot movement speed is quite nice and makes it quite mobile. The stat array is okay. The intelligence is a little disappointing, as is the charisma, as this is meant to be draconic, and dragons typically have kind of ridiculous mental stats. So it would have been nice to have seen at least a 10 int in charisma, but it is what it is just a companion. It does get a +1 and your proficiency bonus to dex, +2 and your proficiency bonus to wisdom saves, which is quite nice as they are some of the more common and more punishing wisdom saving throws that you might come across. It is immune to whatever element you choose for its draconic essence trait. It gets 60 foot of dark vision, has a passive perception of a lowly 12, and then coming over into its actual features. Draconic essence we've already gone over. It will give it immunity to that type, and it will affect the damage type of the infused strikes trait. Bite is going to be a +3 plus your proficiency bonus to hit, only a 5-foot reach, and it's going to do a d6 plus proficiency bonus damage. In terms of a bonus action attack, that is pretty much on par with a crossbow expert attack, slightly better than a polearm master bonus action attack, and probably on par or a little bit better than a 2-weapon fighting attack. Now the real boost here is infused strikes, and that is when another creature within 30 feet of the Drake that it can see hits a target with a weapon attack, the Drake infuses that strike with its essence, causing the target to take an extra d6 of the type determined by its draconic essence. And this is really interesting and poses a very interesting question. Do you choose a more common resistance so that you can benefit from it more, or do you choose a more niche damage type, something like lightning, so that you can perhaps gain more benefit from the damage? Although it has to be said that because of both the bite and the infused strike, and the potential, if you don't use infused strike, for opportunity attacks, that this is going to be, out of the box, one of the higher damage ranges. And the infused strike is really an ability that kind of uplifts the entire team. Coming in at 7th level, you're going to get Bond of Fang and Scale. Now this is going to be pretty powerful, of course, over the entire progression. It's kind of just a bump overall to you and the Drake. So Drake mount, it grows to medium from small size, and even though it is medium, you can ride your Drake. It does gain a fly speed at this level as well, but it can only fly when you are not riding it. That's pretty reasonable. Some people get annoyed at this, but if you gave the Ranger a flying mount at level 7, well, Paladins with Find Greater Steed are going to be a little bit miffed, and it is quite early to hand out something quite so potent. Magic Fang, the Drake's bite attack deals an extra 1d6 of the type chosen for the Drake's Draconic Essence. This is really a mixed bag. It is additional damage. It is additional damage of an elemental type, so it's likely to get around immunity and resistance to non-magical damage. But the primary damage of the bite is still not magical, and that is going to be the bulk of the damage that the bite does. So as you go up in levels, the impact of the bonus action bite attack from the Drake really does start to get decreased depending on what enemies you're fighting. I would have really just preferred this made the bite magical. If they made it magical, they wouldn't need to add any damage to it. They could have bumped it up to a d8 perhaps to reflect that it grew larger, but it's a bit lackluster. And finally, resistance. You gain resistance to the same damage type that the Drake's Draconic Essence is. Overall, 7th level is not really a level where most subclasses are handing out nice things. And that's pretty much across the board. You're not really going to find too many spectacular features in any class at around this kind of early tier 2 boost. So getting this medley of features really is a nice bump, even if Magic Fang could have quite frankly been better done. Drake's Breath, now this is a really cool part where both the Drake and you gain the ability to breathe. As an action, you can bring a 30-foot cone of damaging energy, and this can be either you or your Drake. If it's your Drake, it is still your action, so your Drake can breathe and then still bite. You choose the damage type whenever you choose to breathe. It doesn't have to match the Draconic Essence, which is nice, and of course you get to choose from Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, or Poison. And each creature in the cone which makes a Dex save against your spell save DC, taking 8d6 on a failed saved or half as much damage on a successful one. So this is going to be about on par with a Fireball in terms of actual damage dice rolled, but you get flexible damage type, which is nice. Being able to make it originate from your Drake is going to really allow you to play with angles, especially since your Drake will have a 40-foot fly speed at this level. And overall, this is just a really great ability. This is the first time that the Drakewarden really starts to care particularly about their wisdom score. You're going to want probably at least a +3 wisdom in order to make this really worth it. But with damage, half on a save, you're still going to get something out of it even if you have a lower wisdom. This damage increases to 10d6 at 15th level, which is a nice, fairly significant bump that keeps it relevant. And you get to do this once a day for free, and then you can do it again for a 3rd level spell slot or higher after that. So you can do this at this level a few times a day, provided that you're dedicating your resources for it. And it really kind of drastically turns this into a bit of a blasting subclass, actually. 3 times a day might not sound like much, but it can really blow through and change the course of some encounters. This is overall a really good feature that I'm really happy with. And this is something you need to bear in mind when we're looking at Perfected Bond. So, Perfected Bond. Your bond to your Drake reaches the pinnacle of its power. While your Drake is summoned, you and your Drake gain the following benefits. Empowered Bite. The Drake's bite deals an extra d6 of the type chosen for its Draconic Essence, for a total of 2d6 extra. This does make the bite more relevant again, but again, just make the bite magical, it would have been more impactful. Large Drake, the Drake grows to large size overall, and it can now carry you whilst flying. That is great, and I think it fully, at this level, embodies the essence of a dragon rider, and is kind of an appropriate level for it. It's just sad that most rangers probably won't get to this level to experience it, and it's worth noting that having a large companion following you around all the time can make things a little inconvenient depending on what environment you're in. And finally, you're going to get reflexive resistance. This is similar to some of the other abilities other rangers get, such as the Horizon Walker, and that is when either you or your Drake takes damage and you're within 30 feet of each other, you can use your reaction to give yourself or the Drake resistance to that damage. You can use this reaction a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. Now this is a really great defensive boost, and it's really another incentive to make sure that you always have your Drake available. Even if you're not protecting the Drake itself, the Drake being there allows you to protect yourself better. But since you can ride it all the time at this point, it might even be worth taking something like the Mountain Combatant feat, so that you can force all attacks to attack you instead, and then, I'm not sure if that takes your reaction, but if it doesn't, then you're going to get resistance to it. I think by the time you hit 15th level, you really embody everything about being a Dragon Rider, a Drakewarden, and overall this subclass has done really well. Again, my only real criticism here, besides the art being a little weird, is that the bite should have become magical. Making attacks magical is a pretty standard increase for a player class. The Moon Druid does it, the Kensai Monk does it, monks in general do it with their unarmed strikes. It would have just made more sense and been more effective. The bite is really going to be a very mixed bag attack, and I feel like a lot of the time, depending what you're fighting, you might be better off just ignoring the bite and just using the Drake as a bit of a meat shield. But a lot of fun overall. I'm looking forward to playing one. What do you think of the Drakewarden? Let us know in the comment section down below. Have you played one? If so, let us know how that went. Until next time, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit that like button if you've liked it, and that subscribe button. Every little helps the channel grow and continue. Until next time, I've been Paul, and I'll see you at the Forge.